Welcome back everyone to the channel. How are we all doing? We are back after a little holiday break, and we are back with My Drive Season 4. Very anticipated by myself and all of you people who watch it. And we're finally back. So in this prologue today we're going to go through some of the changes coming to Season 4, a little bit of a recap of previous seasons, and yeah, going through all the new things we're introducing, going through the new calendar. And it's all very exciting. I've been very excited for a few weeks now to share all these ideas with you. If you are new around here, then go down below and subscribe, and please like the video. All the support on Season 2 and Season 3 have been great, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So let's crack on with the prologue for Season 4. Now before we get into the nitty gritty things of what's been changed, let's have a little cast our minds back to previous seasons and what is My Drive for anyone who's new. So obviously if you're here, you're probably a fan of racing, as am I. Specifically the World Endurance Championship. I would say like F1, but World Endurance Championship might just pip it. And in terms of favouritism, the World Endurance Championship, also known as WEC or the WEC, is a multi-class racing series where you have GT cars, which are basically your track versions of supercars that you might see out about, like Porsches, Ferraris, racing each other. And at the same time they're racing, you also have hypercars, which are bespoke, closed cockpit and closed wheel GT cars, effectively. They're all racing at the same time, then can cause very, very exciting and chaotic moments as cars race through traffic. And I think early 2024, Le Mans Ultimate was released, which is a game that My Drive is based off of, which is the official game of the World Endurance Championship. And it released in early access, and over the last year and a half it's had those new features brought in, new cars, new tracks, lots of updates to handling and stuff, and I would say it's probably one of the best racing sims out there in my opinion. I think all the cars feel uniquely different, uniquely challenging, and it's the sim that I play the most. I've played iRacing in the past, played a bit of Assetto Corsa and Assetto Corsa Competizione. Assetto Corsa Competizione, not a complicated name at all. But I think out of all of them, this has been my favourite, and this is one that I keep coming back to and have really enjoyed. The only thing that I want to be improved, well, I've got a long list of things to be improved, but one of the main things to be improved is single player. Now, there's only one single player mode, which is just a simple race weekend. No career mode has been added, although that is being added early next year. So I decided to take it upon myself to make a homemade career mode where basically do single race weekends and combine the points together, and it's called My Drive. So in Season 1, which was the very inception of it, I kind of got halfway through and then life happened. I moved into a new home, life got busy, and then by the time I came back to Le Mans Ultimate, lots of things have changed, new things have been added, so I decided it was best to move on to Season 2. And each season I've tried to add something new and different. So in Season 2, we drove for Lamborghini. I should have said in Season 1 we drove for Ferrari. Season 2 we drove for Lamborghini. I introduced different race types. So we had the 45-minute sprint, the hour and a half standard race, and then the 2.5 hours extended race. I also included different championships. So we had the Drivers' Championship, which obviously each driver scored their own points. We then had the Teams' Championship, where the highest placed car in each team scored points for that team. So for example, I think it's slightly different now, but the two sets of Ferraris, so you have the red Ferraris and then the yellow AF Corsa Ferrari, they would score different team points, but would score the same manufacturer's points, which leads on to the third championship, which was the Manufacturers' Championship. This led to some very exciting finale around Brazil, where actually we had 3 different champions. So we had ourselves winning the Drivers' Championship, we had Toyota winning the Teams' Championship, and then we had Ferrari winning the Manufacturers' Championship. So very exciting things brought in that. On to Season 3, which was our last season, we moved to Cadillac, and kind of had Cadillac luck all the way through the season. Lots of mistakes made. Still very close to in the championship battle going into the last race at Le Mans, but just a few too many mistakes were made, and it meant that Toyota basically took a clean sweep of all 3 championships. And yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing in my drive. I've been thinking long and hard about what to add into Season 4. Sorry, I forgot to mention Season 3 we added different track layouts. So I've been thinking long and hard about what to add into Season 4 because, like I said, the single player aspect of Le Mans Ultimate hasn't been changed since it launched. So it's been very difficult to think of new and interesting ways to improve my drive. But I think with what I've come up with for Season 4, I'm hopeful that all you guys will enjoy it and that it will spice things up nicely. So I guess we'll start cracking into the new things being brought in. Well, what Season 4 will entail. So if you've watched some of the previous streams, you'll know that I am a massive fan of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and it is no surprise that we are driving the Aston Martin Valkyrie in this season. Naturally aspirated V12 sounds incredible. British made car, but American teams. But you know, we're a British driver. Nice synergy there, and I'm excited to have that roaring V12 behind me. It sounds absolutely incredible. There's lots of basic rules. I won't go over them too much here because there are more things for me to remember, such as how we race with the AI, because the AI are a bit stupid with their strategy. So, for instance, we do a double stint and then change all 4 tyres, whereas because the AI like sometimes change 1 tyre at a time, and depending on if it gets too low down. And then if we get to the end of the race and we have a splash and dash, we have to add 10% on, because they're quite conservative with their fuel. But just basically things like that, which I'll mention as we actually go racing and they pop up. But now for the really exciting stuff. There are 2 major things that are being added into Season 4 of my drive. The first of all are wildcards. So wildcards are events that will happen every now and again at defined races. So, well, when we get to the calendar, you'll see which races have got wildcards. And they are events that can happen in and around the race weekend that will just add that splash of randomness and that splash of excitement to the races. So the wildcards are appearing on screen now. So we've got stormy weather, as most of these are self-explanatory, but basically absolute monsoon throughout the whole race. Night race, so even if it's, you know, we might be in Imola where I don't think there's any floodlights. Might need to correct on that, but basically having it as a night race, so you get that difficulty of seeing through the dark. Random grid, so randomised grid, with no point for pole position. The hyperpole sessions, the like 12-minute sessions where pole position gets 3 points, are being kept. But in this case, whoever's on pole doesn't get any points. 2 compounds. This one only affects us. I've been digging in the code to try and see if I can get the AI to run on hards during a race, but it doesn't seem possible at the moment. But basically what this would be is that we would have to use 2 different compounds of tyres. Again, with WEC, the rules are slightly different to something more typical than like F1. You can mix and match your tyre sets. So all this rule is basically saying is that at some point during a race we need to run 2 sets of compounds. So it might be that we just have one, you know, 3 soft tyre, 3 mediums tyres, 1 hard tyre. Just change them all onto different sets. Have 1 side hards, 1 side mediums. Mix and match as long as we use 2 compounds. That is all that we really care about. Changeable conditions, so either going from wet to dry, dry to wet, wet to dry to wet. All those combinations are included in this changeable conditions wildcard. And then the final one being hot weather, where it's just set, the weather is just set extremely hot, basically as hot as we can get it, so that the tyres melt, and just add a bit of chaos. These wildcards will be randomly selected before the start of each race, live on stream, So every race in Season 4 will be live streamed like they were in Season 3. And when we get to a race that's got a wild card, we will spin a wheel and pick. And it will pick one of these random wild cards. So that's kind of like the first thing that's been introduced. If you do have any suggestions of other wildcards I could add, either for this season or for next season, then please drop them down in the comments below. I'd love some suggestions, some new things to add, and hopefully this will be something, if it works out well and you guys enjoy it, this list can just grow and grow and grow. So that's the first change coming to Season 4. Arguably the smaller of the two changes. The second change is something quite big, a little bit controversial, but hopefully something that you guys will enjoy. And it surrounds the topic of balance of performance, or BOP. Now in the World Endurance Championship, the rules are slightly different to what you get in something like F1. And there is this thing called balance of performance. Basically, if you imagine you have two cars, built very differently, but competing in the same category. One of them might be really quick on the straights, but really slow in the corners, and the other one might be really slow in the straights, but really quick in the corners. So you might get tracks like Le Mans, where the first car just storms away with the race win, whereas at tracks like Imola, the second car storms away, and they're not actually racing each other. It's just whatever the track suits. That's the quicker car will win. I feel like that's a bit of an obvious statement. But what BOP aims to do, and this is implemented in the real world WEC, is that you can change certain parameters of the car, so power, weight, energy usage, power beyond a certain speed, all these different variables that are measured and can be tweaked by the FIA to bring cars closer together. So in our instance of one car that's quick on the straights, one car that's quick in the corners, you could decrease the power output of the fast car in the straights, bringing the slower car, more competitive on the straights, and also decrease its weight so that it's more competitive in the corners, and vice versa. On the car that's quick in the corners, you could increase its power to make it quicker on the straights, and increase its weight so it's slower in the corners. This is something that's implemented in Le Mans Ultimate, but it's strictly controlled by the devs. So they might, in some of their hotfixes and updates, they might bring BOP changes. Nothing that can be changed by, us. Which is a bit sad. I would have liked, to implement an actual BOP system and have it where, I can bump up, say, like the Alpines, the Peugeots, the BMWs, those cars that rarely score points, compared to, like the Toyotas and Ferraris, which are always in the contention for wins, always in the contentions for the championships. In an ideal world, I would, there would be a BOP system that I could tweak in the game, but currently that's not available. So what I've decided to do instead is implement a BOP point system, which you can see on screen now. Basically what this means is all the manufacturers will be separated into two groups. We've got Group A, which is made up of Toyota, Ferrari, Porsche, Cadillac and Aston Martin. This is the fast group. Obviously Toyota and Ferrari have been in the championship fight the past 2 years, or two seasons, I keep saying years. Porsche are up there as well, weren't too far away last season. Cadillac, we were in the championship fight and Bamba was, putting some good performances, and then because we don't have any historical data for the Aston Martin's car, we're grouping them in Group A. They will score typical points, as is shown on the right hand side of Group A. So that's 38 points for a win. This is in a standard hour-and-a-half race. 38 points for a win, 27 points for second, 23 for third, 18 for fourth, 15 for fifth, 12 for sixth, 9th for seventh, 6 for eighth, 3 for ninth, and 2 for 10th. Now, if we just look at Toyota, Ferrari, Porsche and Cadillac, because we don't know what the pace of the Aston Martin's like, realistically, if all of those cars finished, that's the top 9 positions taken up, which means the 3 remaining manufacturers of Alpine, BMW and Peugeot are squabbling over 1 point, or 2 points. Maybe with some strategy they can get up, but they're never going to get up into the fifths, or top 5 positions, you need something crazy to happen, which might only happen like once or twice a season. So, Group B, which is made up of Alpine, BMW, and Peugeot, will have a slightly different point system. As we can see on the right, effectively, 8th is the equivalent to a win in Group A. And then it works the way down all the way to 18th place with 1 point. If one of these cars finishes above 8th, basically each position they are above 8, they get 2 more points. So working their way up all the way up to first, they get 52 points. What this means is that, if Alpine are consistently finishing 9th, it means that effectively they're finishing 2nd, and will hopefully bring different manufacturers up into the championship contention. This point system will be active for the standard races and the newly named endurance race. Basically, that's the extended race, but with a more fitting name. The sprint races will still use the previous points, so that's the typical F1 points of 25 points for a win, all the way down to 1 point for 10th. That's because the sprint races tend to be more chaotic, and you tend to see more of the lower manufacturers higher up. And then every 3 races, this grouping will be assessed, similar to how they do it in real life work. We'll basically are based off of quality performances, race performances, points, and adjustments can be made to these groups. So you might find that Aston Martin and Cadillac get bumped down, but BMW gets bumped up, and so on. So something maybe a little bit controversial, but BOP is quite controversial anyway. We've seen in real life Ferrari win the first 3 races of the 2025 season, and then get slapped with BOP, have have the lowest amount of power, have the most amount of weight, and I think they maybe scored some points with one car in Brazil, but the other cars, Toyota and Ferrari, which were, I don't think Toyota was in the battle at Le Mans, but basically the car that won Le Mans down in lower reaches of the points, the other Ferraris outside of the points. So it's a bit controversial anyway, but hopefully with this, it balances, giving those those less quick manufacturers who might have worse BOP, have the availability of more points, but it's not unfair because, well, hopefully it's not unfair because, the sprints are kept normal, and there's still 3 points available for a pole position, which is likely to be won by someone in Group A. And then it will be reviewed every 3 races to make sure that it's fair and consistent, make sure that it's not like, for some reason because we're obviously using the 2025 grid now in Le Mans Ultimate. Maybe the BMW has exceptional BOP in the 2025 season, so it's then in Group. It's basically then, constantly in a top 5 position, then it can be moved up to Group A, and someone from Group A can be moved down into Group B. So let me know your thoughts on this BOP point system down below. I'll be interested to hear what you say. I think it's quite a good way around BOP problem, and it will hopefully, fingers crossed, bring some different manufacturers up into the championship fight and have it so it's not just Toyota and Ferrari battling for a championship. So that's the major updates done. The final thing we have to share, or I have to share, is the race calendar. Now, there is a bit of a side note here. This isn't the complete race calendar. So there will be 10 races. I'm only showing you the initial 5, which I'll go through the 5 now. So we have Sebring as our season opener as a standard race, obviously this being 90 minutes. We're going to be using 2 times fuel ratio, 2 times tyre ratio. So before, in previous seasons, we used times 2 fuel and times 3 tyres. We're mixing it up a little bit this season, with the usage of tyres each race, and no wildcard for the opening race in Sebring. Then we'll go off to Qatar, where we'll use 2 times fuel, 3 times tyres, and we will have a wildcard for Qatar. So, like I say, before the race begins, or when the stream begins, we'll roll that wheel, find out what the wildcard is, and then that will be applied to Qatar. So it could be Qatar has a freak monsoon, and we're racing in the wet. Obviously, for something like this, the night race might be taken out of it. But yeah, hopefully that will be exciting and add some excitement to Qatar. Next, we then have a wildcard sprint. So these sprint events, are all going to be wildcards. But rather than having that additional characteristic, or one of those scenarios added into the sprint, what a wildcard sprint means is that it's a randomly selected track from basically the short tracks on the game. So that will include a variation of Bahrain, a variation of Sebring, variation of Qatar, variation of Fuji, no, not Fuji, of Kota. I think where else there is. Basically, any short configuration of his track will go into this sprint wildcard selection. And then, like we do with the other wildcards, we'll randomly select it at the start of the stream, and we'll have a short practice into qualifying, and then a 45-minute sprint. This will be 2 times fuel and 3 times tyres. Then we go off to Imola, where we have another standard race, 90 minutes, 2 times fuel, 1 times tyres, and no wildcard. And then we get into our one single endurance event of the season, being the Le Mans endurance race. The endurance races are going to be a bit different this season. Last season they were 2.5 hours long. This season they're going to be up to 4 hours, but we're going to do them in 2-hour splits basically. So we'll do qualifying and the first two-ish hours of the race one week, and then the following week we'll finish off the Le Mans endurance with another 2 hours to finish off that endurance race, and that will be on the standard circuit of Le Mans, and not like in the last season when we were on the Mulsanne edition. Normal fuel, normal tyres, and there will be a wild card. I'm debating about there being 2 wild cards. Let me know down below if you'd like to see 2 wild cards in the Le Mans endurance race. That yellow line there is also to dictate when the BOP changes will be looked at. So after the wild card race, I'll look at basically the standings, the pace of the cars so far, and make any adjustments if needed, to try and keep things fair with the BOP point system. And now, like I mentioned, it is going to be a 10-race calendar. Only 5 races have been announced so far, and that is because I'm waiting and hopeful that the European Le Mans Series DLC will come out fairly soon. That includes new LMP3 cars, as well as Paul Ricard, Barcelona, and Silverstone. Now, I know the developers have mentioned that they're taking Silverstone to the Silverstone track and build to the Silverstone ELMS race, which I think is mid-September. I think it's around the 14th. My hope is that not long after that, it'll be released. That DLC will be released, meaning that those three tracks will be included in the second half of the calendar. If I reach the halfway point of this calendar and those races haven't been released, or those racetracks haven't been released, and there's no timeline on them, then the tracks that are already available in the game will be used to fill in those spots. And there will be another wildcard sprint in the second half of the season, but my hope is that the ELMS DLC will be released, within the next month or so. Because if you think this will take us 6 weeks to get through, if we start, and this video will probably come out next Friday, which will be, I don't even know what Friday that'll be, but we'll start in a few weeks' time. Then got 6 weeks to get through. I'm hoping those tracks will be out. They can fill 3 of those 4 remaining spots, and then it just means that I can fill in the last race with an existing track. If not, I already have a backup of tracks that I can use. But as and when news comes out on that, I will let you guys know. But that has been everything that I wanted to get through on today's prologue. We've gone through cars, we've gone through the wild card, we've gone through BOP points, we've gone through the calendar. And I'm very excited. I think this BOP point system will really spice things up. I'm hoping the wild cards will just add that little bit of drama every now and again. And I hope you guys are excited. I'm excited. This video will probably come out... Let me just check. I should have had this down already. Probably come out on the 5th of September. So I'm recording it on the 29th. Probably come out on the 5th. Which means we'll probably get going on the 12th for Season 4 around Sebring. So, I'm very excited. Like I said at the start of the video, subscribe so you don't miss any of the content coming for Season 4 and future content on Le Mans Ultimate. Have a good weekend, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time for the beginning of Season 4 of my drive. Bye!